A room at the Rose Mansion, infected with a mysterious curse. The people who came to live here were either murdered or disappeared without a trace. Specifically this young couple, both happily riding horse. When the husband was about to reach the top of the mountain, suddenly the wife heard a knock on the door. The husband had to postpone the game. A strange man, without saying a word, rushed into the house and beat the husband repeatedly, causing fresh blood falling on wedding photos. Seeing this, the wife was extremely panicked. The murderer cornered her in the room. The surrounding neighbors only heard. The wife let out pitiful moans, but no one cared. The young couple disappeared. A few months later, a family came to buy the room. They thought they would benefit because of the cheap price, without knowing what was waiting behind. Because the whole family works away from home, room 809 is occupied by only the older sister. Ji-hyun is the department head of a research institute in the area. Her father and younger sister both go to Busan to work. The father is a director of a big hospital. Her younger sister works as a hotel receptionist. Today is Ji-hyun's birthday. Ji-na sent her a bra as a gift to her sister. The two are quite close, but because don't get along with the father, Ji-na does not want to go home. She has been independent since childhood, working at a famous hotel. Ji-na is a person with a pleasant way of speaking, so she can easily please even difficult customers. However, the manager still doesn't like Ji-na, afraid that one day Ji-na will take her position. Ji-na is taken to clean the pool. Here a colleague wondered to Ji-na, her family has a hospital. Why did she have to work as a receptionist? Ji-na did not want to rely on her family. Then the female colleague said, she is suing the department head for sexual harassment. The female colleague wants to ask Ji-na, standing as a witness, because she was the one who witnessed all the immoral acts. Ji-na was somewhat hesitant, wanting to think more. Suddenly, she received a phone call from her boyfriend, making an appointment for dinner tonight and shopping. Ji-na's boyfriend is not a good person. He is currently a pharmacist at a small private hospital. The boyfriend wants to rely on Ji-na's family to work at a big hospital. At night, Ji-na went to a date with her boyfriend. During the meal, he mentioned marriage, but Ji-na wasn't ready yet. Her attitude seemed unpleasant. Seeing this, her boyfriend took Ji-na shopping and gave her a pink dress, which made Ji-na happy again. She also posted photos on social networks, receiving many likes. There was a mysterious person who wanted to remind Ji-na to be careful with her boyfriend, but this guy stopped commenting. On the other hand, Ji-hyun returned to the Rose Villa after a tiring day of work. While she was pressing the elevator button, went to the room, suddenly a hand reached inside. It turned out to be a crazy woman, scaring Ji-hyun. The crazy woman's son apologized to Ji-hyun, then took his mother away. But he kept his eyes glued to the elevator, seeing what floor Ji-hyun went to. Knowing that she was on the 8th floor, this guy silently watched from afar, with the intention of illicit. Ji-hyun will soon have a business trip away from home. She's preparing her luggage. When finished, Ji-hyun called her boyfriend, then started to leave the room. While she was waiting for the elevator, a guy wearing a raincoat appeared behind her. Ji-hyun discovered him and tried to call for help but couldn't make it in time. In the morning, Ji-na was urged by her father to quickly return to the Rose Villa. He could not contact Ji-hyun, so he was afraid something would happen to his daughter. Ji-na could not ask for leave, so she asked her father to come back and check by himself. But the hospital was busy. He forced Ji-na to go home and hung up. Ji-na was very upset. Suddenly the head of the department appeared. He knew about the female colleague and asked Ji-na to stand as a witness, accused him of harassment, so he asked Ji-na to stay away for a while, taking the opportunity for Ji-na to write a leave application to go home to find her sister. Everyone looked at Ji-na with disdain, thinking that she was shirking responsibility, not wanting to be a witness for her female colleague. Ji-na did not sadly explained to her family members are more important. After making arrangements at the hotel, Ji-na went to her room to prepare her luggage, then took the train to the Rose Villa. Here Ji-na is followed by one woman, but she didn't know it. Ji-na found Ji-hyun's car. Why did her sister leave the house without taking the car? The crazy lady was sitting next to the car cursing. Ji-na approached and asked, but the crazy lady immediately ran away, which greatly annoyed her. The Rose Mansion has all sorts of bizarre people. That's why Ji-na doesn't like to go home. Then, Ji-na goes to room 809. She also falls into the sight of the stalker. Ji-na accidentally discovered that there were blood stains on the floor. She followed the blood stains to check. Someone hung a mannequin on the balcony. Its expression was extremely scary. It was also wearing a pink dress, exactly like Ji-na. Almost scared her out of her wits. Before Ji-na could calm down, she suddenly heard the door open. Ji-na immediately took precautions. It turned out that her father had come. Ji-na was no longer confused. He couldn't feel secure about Ji-hyun, so he decided to quit his job at the hospital. Ji-na pulled her father to the balcony. He also panicked no less. When he first saw the mannequin, the father realized the pink dress was exactly like the one Ji-na was wearing, but Ji-hyun didn't have anything like that. He intended to deal with the mannequin. He couldn't let mess It hangs here forever. Gina quickly stops her father. Doing so could destroy the crime scene. The two agreed to call the police to solve the problem. Before Gina could call, someone suddenly knocked on the door, claiming to be the president of the women's union. The father opened the door and asked why she was looking for his daughter. It's not important. Wait until we meet her and then talk. After talking, this woman immediately left. Seeing that she was trying to hide, the father pulled her back and forced her to confess. This woman had to admit that she was here for a blind date. Jihyun was arranged to meet a man named Charlie, but she didn't appear. The father continued to question. A perfect person like Jihyun, why did he have to go on a blind date? This woman didn't know how to answer, so she quickly made an excuse to leave. The father wanted to chase, but was stopped by Gina. The important thing now is to go to the police, so they can quickly find Jihyun, otherwise her sister could be in danger. The father and daughter set off together, in the elevator. Gina discovered this villa also has security cameras. Gina asked her father to go to the security room to take a look, so they could know where her sister went. But the security guard gave many reasons, not wanting her father to see the video recording. He requested that the police must come, along with a search warrant. The father was extremely angry. Gina quickly pulled her father out. Just go to the police station first. As soon as the two left, the security immediately reported to a mysterious person. As soon as the two people left the villa, the woman following them continued to follow, but the two drove away. Later, Gina and her father went to the police station. Seeing that the father could not keep calm, Gina had to stand up and give a statement. She showed the police photos taken at the scene. The female police officer asked to write a report, at the same time asked Gina, go to the crime team number 2 downstairs, find Park Min-soo. Gina do as the female police officer said. Give a report to her father to write. She will go find Park Min-soo. Then Gina was instructed by the police to go to Park Min-soo's desk. The two greeted, then went into a private room to talk through the story and evidence. On Gina's phone, Park Min-soo thought that she was being followed. Gina was extremely confused. Suddenly, the captain came to find Park Min-soo. He quickly sent a business card to Gina, then went out to hear the curse, taking the opportunity for Gina to steal the list of criminals under Park Min-soo's management, which she noticed from the moment she entered the room. Gina secretly sneaked out of the police station, then returned to the Rose Villa with her father. On the way, the father received a phone call. He had to get out of the car to answer the phone, so that his daughter wouldn't know the content of the conversation. But looking at her father's attitude, Gina also guessed that he had something important to do. She advised Dad return to Busan. Finish the work. Gina would go alone to find her sister. The father had to entrust Jihyun to Gina. Then he took his daughter back to the Rose Villa, then set off, arriving in Busan. Gina returned to the room. She was about to stop by the supermarket to buy some things, but accidentally overheard a conversation from a man named Charlie. Gina remembered Charlie, whom the women's union president had arranged for a blind date with her sister. She decided to probe Charlie. He is the son of the supermarket owner. Because the mother is crazy, so Charlie replaces the crazy lady as manager. At this time, the crazy lady picks up shit and brings it into the supermarket, making Charlie extremely angry, and in a hurry pulled her mother out. While he was dealing with the problem, Gina sneaked into Charlie's office. Unexpectedly, he was a pervert. In the iPad was full of sensitive videos. Through the supermarket security camera, Gina discovered that the staff was coming. She quickly left the office and pretended to be shopping. At the checkout counter, Gina fell in Charlie's eye. He was attracted by her beautiful appearance, so he wanted to get to know Gina. She did not bother to talk to the pervert, immediately left the supermarket, and returned to her room. Gina checked the list of criminals, got it from Park Min-soo. Most of them were sex criminals. There was only one murderer. He lived in room 603, building 110, also in the Rose Villa. Suddenly, a naked young man appeared in the house, startling Gina. It turned out the youngest brother had just returned to get his clothes and then leave. He used to live in a boarding school dormitory, so he was rarely at home. The youngest brother didn't even know about Jihyun's disappearance. Gina showed him the mannequin in the hallway. The youngest sister speculated that it might have been caused by her mentally ill sister upstairs. Previously, Jihyun had complained to the management about the mentally ill sister making noise, so she carried a knife down to the room, then rushed to stab Jihyun. Luckily, she dodged. Maybe her sister was mentally ill, hanging mannequins in the hallway, but the youngest brother doesn't believe Jihyun is missing. He can't find his sister's backpack in the house. Maybe Jihyun went on a trip abroad and forgot to turn on roaming phone, so the family couldn't call. But the backpack that the youngest brother mentioned was lying in the landfill outside the villa. Gina still felt it's very strange that Jihyun didn't contact anyone. The youngest brother didn't care. He wanted to go to the internet shop to relax. Gina was scared and wanted the youngest brother to stay home. He still didn't turn around. The next morning, the police came to the house. The list of criminals was forgotten under the floor. Gina quickly hid it, then showed the police the bloodstains, along with the mannequin on the balcony. The female police officer also found Ji-hun's phone behind the chair. Park Min-soo wanted to bring it back for analysis, because Ji-hun used an iPhone, so analysis could take a long time. Ji-na urged the police to hurry up. Ji-hun had been missing for 4 days, but the female police officer was angry. They only came to support the investigation, not the mission to find the missing person. Park Min-soo had to mediate, then encouraged Ji-na. He would do his best to find Ji-hyun. Ji-na felt secure. After the police left, Ji-na knew she couldn't rely on them. She wanted to investigate herself. Ji-na went to room 603, the residence of the murderer on the criminal list. There were many signs posted on the door, with the content of chasing away the murderer. Ji-na couldn't find him in the room. Suddenly the Relief Society president appeared. She immediately pulled Ji-na away, then began to warn her that the murderer was a psychopath. He not only killed one person, but also murdered a young couple. Everyone wanted to kick him out of the Rose Villa. The woman also remembered something. Ji-hyun had been in contact with the murderer. That day he was digging through the trash to find food for the stray cats. Ji-hyun saw the murderer throwing trash indiscriminately and angrily reminded him. When she left, the murderer was still staring at Ji-hyun. This woman showed Ji-na where the landfill was. At the same time she reminded her to be careful. Ji-na wondered where the usual murderer was. This woman immediately said that he had his own room, but he lived in a camper every morning and night. Ji-na said goodbye to this woman. Then she went to the camper, and while the murderer was not inside, she called the lockpicker. After opening the camper door, Ji-na broke in to check, accidentally discovered the bra, which she gave as a birthday gift to her sister, was worn on a teddy bear. Ji-na carefully took a photo as evidence. Just as the murderer returned, Ji-na quickly hid under the table. The murderer discovered that the door was open. He immediately went to close the door. Ji-na suddenly realized that she had dropped her phone. She reached out to grab it. Unfortunately, the murderer stepped on. Ji-na quickly covered her mouth to not make a sound. The murderer returning to the seat. Ji-na also got her phone back. Suddenly someone came to the camper, asking the killer for help. Because their car was having trouble, the killer also agreed. Taking advantage of time, he went outside. Ji-na escaped from the camper through the back door. She went to a public phone booth, called to tell Park Min-soo. It seemed like I had found the person who kidnapped my sister. But at this time, Park Min-soo was in ambush. A group of rapists, seeing that they had captured the girl, Park Min-soo immediately hung up. He and the female police officer rushed to rescue the girl. The two of them fought with 4 criminals. The female police officer took control of the game. Park Min-soo, in order to protect the girl, was given with a few sticks. The policewoman caught one guy. The rest split up and ran away. Park Min-soo quickly chased, caught one more guy. On the other side, Ji-na saw Park Min-soo hanging up, so she had to leave a message, asking him to meet at the cafe. Ji-na would come first. On the way she bumped into a female student. Unfortunately dropped her phone recently, so she wanted to borrow Ji-na's phone to call and try to find it. The female student's phone was in the grass. She had originally thrown it there herself, with the purpose of getting the number. Ji-na's phone. Later Ji-na met Park Min-soo at the coffee shop, showing him the photo taken in the camper. Ji-na affirmed that only her sister had this bra, because it was a custom-made birthday gift. Park Min-soo decided to go meet the murderer, bringing Ji-na as well. But the camping car was no longer in the same place. Park Min-soo followed the tire tracks. The car was parked in front of the Rose Villa. Park Min-soo approached and asked about the murderer. He just introducing himself as a police officer. The murderer immediately ran away. Park Min-soo and Ji-na split up to chase. She was like an athlete, jumped over the fence to block the murderer's head. He had no way to run and quickly crawled under the truck, rolled around for a while and escaped the siege. Ji-na continued to chase. Park Min-soo was blocked by a car and lost trace. On the other side, Ji-na grabbed the murderer. She kept calling but couldn't find Park Min-soo. She was quickly knocked down by him. The murderer went into an abandoned house. Suddenly he rushed out from the corner, lifting Ji-na up to the wall. Luckily he appeared in time to rescue Ji-na. The murderer was also arrested for assault. A moment later he was brought into the interrogation room. No matter how looked at, Park Min-soo was also suspicious. This guy had killed someone once, and certainly dared to kill a second or third time, because he was a twisted psychopath. In the case of young couple, just because the wife smiled, made the murderer think that she had feelings for him. When saw the wife happy with her husband, the murderer became jealous, so he killed both husband and wife. He had to spend 7 years in prison for his crime. Back in reality, the female police officer entered the interrogation room, took out Ji-hyun's photo. "You better not lie about anything." Faced with the female police officer's intense questioning, the murderer remembered the previous situation. He was also forced to confess by other police officers like that. The murderer began to have convulsions. He rolled on the floor and foamed at the mouth, causing the female police officer to be extremely surprised. Outside, Park Min-soo also felt confused. In the evening, Ji-na returned home. Her father also came back. Gina told him what had just happened, and knew the suspect is a murderer who has killed people. The father is extremely worried about Ji-hyun. If anything happens to his daughter, he is determined to live and die with the murderer. The father cannot sit still. He wants to go to the police station to interrogate the murderer. Gina wanted to stop her father, making him even more agitated. Could it be that I don't care about my older sister? Gina feels self-pity. From childhood to adulthood, her father had never cared for her like that. Gina let her father do whatever he wanted. Hiding in the retreat room, the dad realized he had said something harsh, so he stood in front of the room and apologized to Gina, but she refused to open the door. Gina was texting with an online friend. The two of them talked for a long time, also quite compatible, often confide about what's happening in life, but when this friend asks to meet, Gina refused again. She didn't want to reveal her true identity. Just being a soulmate would be better. Then, Gina turned off the phone and went to sleep. Unexpectedly, the phone was infected with a virus. Someone was controlling it remotely, without Gina knowing. In the morning, Gina received a call from Park Min-soo, wanting her to come to the coffee shop the day before to discuss. Here, Park Min-soo questioned Gina. Did she illegally break into the camper car? Gina had to admit. Park Min-soo told her. The murderer's lawyer went to the police station, sue against Gina for illegal trespassing. The evidence she obtained was also destroyed, because the lawyer said that it was Gina who brought it into the camper herself. She was extremely resentful, but because Gina did not tell the truth from the beginning, Park Min-soo has no way to deal with it. She can even go to jail for 3 years. Now, if Gina doesn't want to be sued, she is forced to withdraw the lawsuit. Assault by the murderer. It means he will go free. Park Min-soo cannot continue investigating Ji-hyun's disappearance, even though he knows the murderer is definitely involved. Gina felt extremely disappointed. There was no way to arrest him, unless there was real evidence, such as security camera footage. Park Min-soo's suggestion, making Gina suddenly remember, there is also a security camera in the Rose Villa, but the security guard won't show it. Park Min-soo still has a way to get it. First, Gina wants to go home. Reported the situation to her father, knowing that the murderer had been released. The father had a plan in mind. He waited for his daughter to leave with Park Min-soo, then followed the murderer, and saw him smiling in the camper. The father was furious. Later, the murderer came to an alley. As soon as he saw a stray cat, his expression was extremely hateful. It turned out that, when he was a child, the murderer had his fish eaten by a cat, so he became obsessed, so that he had to kill all the cats. The blood in Ji-hyun's house was not human blood, it was cat blood. The murderer suddenly disappeared. The father who was following him lost track of him, rushed to find him, and found him stabbing the cat, with an extremely excited expression, making the godfather feel terrible. After that, the murderer leisurely left. The father continued to watch. At this time, Park Min-soo took Gina to meet the fat man, who has 5 criminal records, and now joins under his command. This guy is a professional hacker, can view all the security cameras in the city. The fat guy gave all the data in the security cameras in recent months to Gina, and Park Min-soo slowly checked. In the elevator video, Gina discovered that her sister came home at 7:20 p.m. until after 1 p.m. The murderer also took the elevator to the 8th floor, but could not record the scene. He and Ji-hyun went down. Maybe they moved through the staircase, but in the staircase there were no security cameras. Gina looked at the map of the camera layout, discovered that in the opposite building, there was a camera that could see into the hallway and stairs. The fat guy took data from the camera in the opposite building. In the tape at just after 4 a.m. the same day, someone wearing a raincoat threw a suitcase down from the 8th floor, then carrying one person through the stairwell. Relying on the suitcase and the shirt the other person was wearing, Gina confirmed that this was her older sister. Ji-hyun was not missing, but was kidnapped by someone else. The murderer is the first suspect. On the other side, the father followed the murderer to a fish farm. Because of the past, the murderer now feeds the fish to the cat meat. The father feels that this guy is the crazy. The father appeared in front of him. Do you know who I am? The murderer just smiled. The father, angry, rushed to beat him, asking where his daughter was. The murderer shook his head and didn't know, but the father still didn't believe it. He cut off the murderer's electronic leg cuffs. If he died now, surely no one would find the body. The father asked the murderer one last time, was he willing to talk now? The murderer struggled, causing both of them to fall into the pond. The father pulled him onto the camper car and tortured him until he told the truth. He screamed and begged, but to no avail. The father drove the camper, pulled his car somewhere else, because perhaps the fish farm would soon be found by the police. In the evening, Park Min-soo took Gina back home. She wanted to call her father to inform about her sister's arrest Toad, but he didn't answer the phone after calling many times. Today, the father kept wondering about the murderer's whereabouts. Gina suspected that he would go find this guy to question. Policeman Park would ask someone to find out the location of the father and the murderer, and see if they are together or not. Only then will Jina feel reassured. She went home and slept until morning, but her father still hadn't contacted her. Park Min-soo also had no news. Jina was impatient and heard her psychotic sister upstairs making noise, so she immediately ran upstairs to handle it. The boyfriend was the one who opened the door, apologized to Jina for making a noise. She also accepted to calm down. Suddenly her psychotic sister rushed out, thinking that Jina and her boyfriend were dating, making her angry again, decided to fight against her mentally ill sister. The neighbors also came out to watch the fun. Her boyfriend tried to dissuade, so Jina finally gave up. When she returned to her room, she discovered that someone had left a parcel in front of the door, but she hadn't placed an order. The recipient had written Jina's name. She was curious to open it and see. It was a seductive nightgown, similar to the one Jina saw in her sister's closet. Now she understood the reason. Jina saw that the delivery person had not gone far and wanted to chase and see who was sending it. However, when she stopped the delivery vehicle, the delivery person said that no parcel was sent to room 809. So who sent it? Jina discovered a motorbike driver secretly running away, immediately chased him to check. It turned out that this guy was Charlie. He hid in the supermarket, but was still found by Jina. Before Jina's questioning, Charlie insisted that he did not send the parcel to room 809. She discovered that the security guard was there. Immediately messed up one match, thinking that Charlie was a harasser, and wanted the security guard to show her the security camera. There was no way. The guard must be agree. Through security cameras detected, Charlie actually brought a parcel to the 8th floor. He tried to deny it. There are many rooms on the 8th floor, not necessarily sent to Jina's room. So which room is it? Today Jina wants to make it clear. Charlie still didn't know how to respond, but suddenly the president of the women's union came to the rescue, saying that it was the food she ordered. This woman also wanted to punish Jina, for from morning till now, she made a chaos everywhere. Jina alone had to fight against the whole villa, arguing with the president of the women's union. I did that because someone was kidnapped here. The president thought Jina was crazy, immediately ordered someone to throw her out. Jina tried to struggle. Charlie praised her for being stronger than her sister. Hide head, reveal her tail. Jina was sure Charlie was involved in the kidnapping. Not only him, but also others people living in a rose villa, seemingly covering for each other. Jina is only one herself, so there is nothing she can do, so she had to sit alone in a corner. She called her boyfriend to complain, but he took the excuse of being exercising hung up. It turned out to be an exercise with a female colleague. Just when it started to rain, Jina felt even more self-pity. Luckily, the light of her life appeared. Park Min-soo came with an umbrella, announcing that he had found her father's location. Just as Jina had guessed, he was with the murderer. Park Min-soo will go there with Jina. On the way, he can hear her confiding about what just happened. Jina has the opportunity to vent all the pain in her heart. On the other hand, the father buys food and brings it to camping car for the murderer. Eat and tell me where my daughter is, the father threatened. If this guy doesn't say anything this time, he will use strong measures. He went out to the car to get a stapler and came back to put it on shoulder as a model. The murderer still endured the pain. The father pressed his head against the glass window. His patience had reached its limit, but before he could act, he was immediately stabbed by the murderer. Unexpectedly, this guy used a can lid as a weapon, ending the father's life. Seeing him struggling, the murderer was extremely pleased. Get up and hit me again. Later, Jina and Park Min-soo arrived. The murderer immediately ran away. Discovered the father was barely alive. Park Min-soo quickly called an ambulance, then chased the murderer. Following this guy along the riverbank, the murderer climbed up the dam, saw that this guy was about to jump down. Park Min-soo advised him to calm down. Everything could be negotiated as long as he was alive. The murderer left the saying, "Love conquers all" in French, then threw himself into the rushing water. Park Min-soo could only feel helpless. He returned to Jina. The father was put in an ambulance. Jina also followed to the hospital. Park Min-soo stayed at the scene to deal with it. He had to go back to the station to report to the captain. Park Min-soo was punished by the captain, leaving the murderer under his supervision, assaulting others and then committing suicide. Park Min-soo could only listen to curses. Now no matter what he says, he cannot escape responsibility. At night, Park Min-soo went to the hospital to ask about Jina. The father was out of critical condition, but still couldn't wake up. The youngest brother also ran to find his father. Then Jina told him the news. Jihyun was kidnapped. The reason Jina didn't say it early, so that the youngest brother can study with peace of mind. He extremely angry. Who caused that? Jina reminded her youngest brother to keep her voice down. They were in the hospital, just as the nurse came, announcing that family members could visit the patient. Jina took her. The youngest went first, leaving Park Min-soo outside to wait. But only one person was allowed to visit the father. The youngest brother followed the nurse in first. Jina stood outside muttering, her father must live, even though he hadn't been good to Jina for a day. The next day, Jina returned to the Rose Villa. She took a shower and came out balcony to relax, thinking about what happened. Ji-na accidentally noticed the one-way street in front of the Rose Villa. As if realizing something, Ji-na immediately went to find the fat guy to confirm. If the kidnapper took Ji-hyun by car, he would definitely have to go through a one-way street. But there was a security camera at the end of the street. Didn't record a car going out at 4 a.m. Ji-na suspected that her sister never left the villa, but was hidden somewhere by the kidnapper. The fat guy also had the same guess, and was planning to report it to Ji-na and Park Min-soo. She came first. Another party. Park Min-soo was investigating Ji-hyun's kidnapping. He went to the research institute to ask, but Ji-hyun's colleague said that she had cleaning up all her belongings and preparing to transfer jobs. Park Min-soo couldn't find any clues, had to lead the female police officer to meet a person who frequently contacted Ji-hyun, who was her boyfriend. On the day of the kidnapping, he was on a business trip to Canada with the minister. The female police officer also confirmed. In the newspaper there was information about this trip. When returning home, the boyfriend could not contact Ji-hyun, so he went to the police. Unexpectedly, her family members had also just reported missing. The boyfriend was worried, asked Park Min-soo if something would happen to Ji-hyun. Right now, Park Min-soo doesn't dare to say anything in advance. Suddenly, Ji-hyun's boyfriend received a call. He had something important to do, so he asked permission to go first. Park Min-soo also received a call from Ji-na, saying that there was a new clue. He and the policewoman immediately returned to the Villa Rose. Here, Ji-na and the fat guy are checking once again the security cameras. The cameras in the opposite building look at the staircase, again obscured by trees, when going down to the first floor. Ji-na and the fat guy gathered with Park Min-soo. Then let's go to the area hidden from the camera to check. Here is the parking lot. The fat guy analyzed while walking. The building where the kidnapping took place is building 117. The building opposite has a camera, looking at the stairs, is 116. Between these two buildings is a parking lot. If cross the one-way street to exit the villa, the camera at the end of the one-way street will be recorded, but the kidnapper and Ji-hyun were not seen leaving. At the time of the incident, the fat guy found a trail leading to buildings 118 and 119. This is probably the route the kidnapper used to escape, knowing how to take advantage of the security camera's blind spots. To take Ji-hyun away without being detected, it must be someone who knows every corner of the Villa Commission. The fat guy speculated, maybe Ji-hyun is locked somewhere in building 118 or 119. Park Min-soo is not sure, so he can apply for a search warrant, but only suspicion. The police cannot follow Ji-na's request. She got angry and went back to her room to clean up. Ji-na accidentally found the parcel contained a sexy nightgown from the day before. There was the delivery company address on it. Ji-na decided to go there and ask, but this was not the delivery company uses it, but it's just a sample invoice they give to partners. If it's a company invoice, it will have a barcode. Ji-na wants to ask for a list of partners. The delivery company gives a sample invoice. Unexpectedly, the supermarket is at the Rose Villa, is also one of the partners. Ji-na is even more certain that Charlie is a pervert who sent her a sexy nightgown. In the evening, Ji-na returns to her room and sees the fat guy struggling in front of the door. It turns out Park Min-soo is worried, ask him to install a camera in front of room 809. Now anyone who tries to disturb Ji-na will be recorded. The fat guy connected the camera to Ji-na's laptop, letting her monitor herself. After finishing his work, he asked permission to return. Ji-na wanted to ask the fat guy one more favor. Help him investigate a person named Charlie, who worked at the supermarket in the Rose Villa. The fat guy was free to set the price, so he immediately agreed. After entering the room, Ji-na called for her boyfriend to confide in, but he seemed sleepy. Ji-na was about to hang up, but heard another woman's voice next to her boyfriend. Only now did Ji-na know he was having an affair. She was heartbroken, fine to alcohol. Call Park Min-soo to confide. Ji-na burst into tears. After what had just happened, Park Min-soo also only knows how to comfort and encourage. I believe you is a strong person. Everything will be fine soon. In the morning, Ji-na woke up. Yesterday Park Min-soo asked her to look for her sister's laptop. Ji-na remembered the wooden box, which her father personally made for the two sisters to store their things. Sure enough, Ji-hyun left his laptop here. Suddenly, Ji-na received a phone call from the fat guy. He had the information she needed. Ji-na set off to the fat man. After hacking Charlie's phone data, the fat guy discovered that Charlie was a pervert person. He saved a lot of naked photos of girls. He also collected photos of Ji-hyun posted on social networks. It seemed that Charlie had been targeting Ji-hyun for a long time. Unintentionally, Ji-na discovered that Charlie's selfie had an unusual detail. Realizing something, Ji-na returned to the supermarket and waited for Charlie to close and go away. Ji-na just broke into the inside here. Ji-na found a hunting gun, discovered that Charlie was illegally killing animals, and there were also scary mannequins, similar to that one hanging on the balcony. Ji-na didn't even have time to calm down. She suddenly heard a noise outside. Unfortunately for her, Charlie had returned to the supermarket. Gina sent a text message asking for help from Park Min-soo. When he received it, he immediately set off. On the other side, Charlie knew that someone had broken into the supermarket and started searching everywhere. He took a shotgun and approached the mannequins. While Charlie was busy searching, Gina escaped. He quickly discovered and chased her. Charlie seemed excited because he was going on a real hunt, but Gina ran very fast. Charlie lost track and was extremely frustrated. Gina panicked and hid on the roof of the supermarket. Luckily, Park Min-soo appeared. When he introduced himself as a patrol police officer, Charlie leave. Then Park Min-soo took Gina to a corner to blame her. Why did she do such a dangerous thing? Gina told her findings new thing at the fat guy's place. Perhaps Charlie had been following his sister for a long time. Gina wanted to investigate him, to find more useful evidence. Knowing that the fat guy was hacking again, without his permission, the corporal came to the house to handcuff him and warn him. Gina again convinced him to let the fat man go. It was all up to her to ask him to do it. If Park Min-soo did not remove the handcuffs, Gina would go to the station to confess about her illegal actions. Park Min-soo had to soften. Gina wanted to take the fat guy out for a barbecue to apologize, because she saw he was dragged into this matter. Park Min-soo told Gina at the restaurant that her sister's kidnapping case had been transferred to another team, and now Park Min-soo was not allowed to investigate. Hear the name Captain Jong of the new team. The fat guy has no like at all. He is a person who specializes in falsifying evidence. As long as has money, right things can become wrong. Park Min-soo still encourages Gina. Captain Jong is the one who has real strength, because falsifying evidence is not an easy task. For now, just keep an eye on his actions first. If anything goes wrong, Park Min-soo will show up. He promises not to abandon Gina in the middle. The fat guy sees this and teases Park Min. Has feelings with Gina. He really liked it, but tried to hide. Gina could only laugh. After eating and drinking, Park Min-soo took Gina back. She went to her room and discovered that she had forgotten to give her sister laptop to Park Min-soo, and Gina opened the laptop and take a look, discovered a file called Beard Association. Gina wanted to check the file, but asked for a password. She had to text to inform him, but unexpectedly the message was read by the girl who was following her. Knowing that Gina found Jihyun's laptop, the girl following her gave a sinister smile. The next day, Gina went to the apartment manager, wanting to ask for a list of cars parked in the parking lot, to borrow the black box to check to see if she could detect any clue, but the manager did not agree. At this moment, an aunt ran in, complaining about the foul-smelling tap water. Wanting the manager to allow to check the tank, he promised to go down to avoid it. Seeing that Gina followed the aunt, asked for a bottle of water in her room, then brought it to on the management desk. In addition to the fact that her sister was missing, Gina speculated that Jihyun's body was decomposing in the tank. The manager suggested Gina go to the police, ask for a search warrant, and then continue talk. Gina went to the police station to ask Park Min-soo, accidentally letting Captain Jang hear the story. Park Min-soo had to take Gina to the coffee shop. Now he has no authority to investigate the case, so he cannot ask for order to help Gina. She still trusted Park Min-soo, even gave him her sister's laptop in order not to betray Gina's trust. Park Min-soo began to investigate. The suspect was Charlie. However, on the day of the crime, Charlie had an alibi, didn't know how to proceed. Suddenly Park Min-soo discovered a police convoy pulled up to the Rose Villa. It turned out that Captain Jong had obtained a search warrant. Besides being bad, he was indeed a capable person. The police quickly sealed off the villa, then they split up to search everywhere. This made the residents extremely confused. Captain Jang used a search warrant and asked the manager to open the rooftop door so they could check the water tank. If there was no harvest this time, Captain Jang won't be able to talk to the station chief, so he's trying his best. Very quickly there were search results. The water tank actually contained a body. Gina in below heard the news and wanted to ask Park Min-soo to take her up to confirm. Park Min-soo used her identity as a police officer and took Gina up the rooftop to check, but the people from Team 1 wouldn't let them in. Park Min-soo was extremely angry. According to the procedure, when a body is found, the victim's family must confirm the identity. Captain Jang had to let the two people in, although the clothes were very similar. This was not Jihyun, but Charlie's crazy mother. When the police carried the body down, Charlie pretended to cry. The police took a statement, but he didn't know anything, because usually the crazy woman often ran around, disappeared for a few days without anyone paying attention. The police had to withdraw first. Gina was helped downstairs by Park Min-soo. Suddenly she received youngest brother's phone, notifying that her father had just woken up. Gina immediately ran to the hospital. The first question her father asked her was, "Have you found your sister?" Gina was extremely upset. She struggled to run everywhere. But her father also, without asking a single question, Gina raised her voice a bit, causing everyone around her to hear. The youngest brother had to lead her out to calm down. Then the youngest brother wanted to ask Ji-na what kind of person the eldest sister was. In her eyes, Ji-hun is a perfect person, both work and career are going smoothly, but the youngest brother confirmed that Ji-hun is not as good as she looks. The eldest sister hides a lot of things from her family. The youngest brother takes out a video. Inside is a girl wearing revealing clothes, live streaming to ask for donations. Ji-na realized the person in the video was Ji-hun. It turned out that this was the dark side her sister had hidden for so long. But Ji-na was sure there was a hidden agenda. Why should a rich person like Ji-hun show off her body to make money? To explain, must first find her. On the other side, someone also watched the live stream. The mentally ill sister smiled disdainfully because she discovered that Ji-hun was a spoiled girl. She showed it off to her boyfriend and also wanted to make it public to the residents in the villa. Her boyfriend wanted to stop her. After all, Ji-hyun was still missing. If her family knew about this, they would be in even more trouble. But her mentally ill sister didn't care. She kept spreading the video around the apartment. Everyone who saw it was talking about it. It turned out she was a prostitute, but she kept putting on a gentle face. It was to attract men. Vulgar words came out of the neighbor's mouth. Quickly spread the word to the president of the women's union and the residents of the Rose Villa, all of whom wanted to evict Ji-hyun's family. The president just kept silent. Later, a short-haired girl came looking for the president, wanted to talk to her privately. Others had to go out first. Suddenly, the short-haired girl slapped the president repeatedly in the face. The president didn't dare to resist. The short-haired girl blamed the president for letting someone die in the Rose Villa, affecting the plan was unfinished. The short-haired girl asked the president to make arrangements. At this point, the president couldn't hold back any longer. "I'm not your dog. Don't give orders." The short-haired girl was about to slap the president again. Not expecting to be beaten back by the president grabbed her hair and warned, "Even though the short-haired girl has someone's back, the president only needs a few seconds to deal with that person." The short-haired girl doesn't dare to be arrogant anymore. The president further reminded her the short-haired girl should take care of her own task. She splashed water in the short-haired girl's face and chased her away. This girl could only swallow the anger in her stomach. At this time, the police performed an autopsy on the crazy woman and discovered that there was a key in her mouth. Then the forensic examiner reported the results of the autopsy to Captain Jang. The victim fell into a water tank and drowned, rather than being murdered and his body thrown away. The forensics returned the key to Captain Jang, also because the victim swallowed it herself and no one put it in her mouth. The jacket on the crazy woman's body, it was indeed Ji-hun's, with her DNA on it. Captain Jang wondered, what do these things have to do with each other? Forensics is only responsible for examination. The investigation must be done by the police. Do it yourself. The forensic pathologist hurriedly left, leaving Captain Jang extremely thoughtful. He handed the key to the policeman wearing glasses, forcing him to find its lock. On the other side, when the police had all left, Ji-na returned to the scene. She found her sister's bracelet, dropped it in the tank containing the crazy woman's body. Suddenly someone appeared. It turned out to be Park Min-soo. Ji-na took Park Min-soo to another place to talk, showed him the bracelet. She just picked it up. It's the relic her mother left for Ji-hun. From the traces it can be seen. Someone tore off the necklace. Ji-na remembered the crazy woman. Last time this woman also intended to steal her necklace. Perhaps this bracelet was stolen by the crazy woman from her sister. Surely the crazy woman knew Ji-hun was there, but now she's dead. Ji-na is extremely helpless. Suddenly, Ji-na remembers something, shows Park Min-soo a video of Ji-hun dancing. Park Min-soo doesn't believe this is Ji-hun. Should take Ji-na to the fat guy. Through analyzing the video, the fat guy also confirmed that it was not Ji-hun. Someone used deepfake technology to attach Ji-hun's face to the video. The fake person was also very sophisticated. If it weren't for identifying the eyes, the fat guy didn't find out. Ji-na wondered, who pulled this trick, and what was this guy's purpose? The fat guy could only laugh. What could he do? Park Min-soo would investigate. After all, this is also a crime of insulting another person's honor. Can go to jail for up to 7 years. The fat guy is very experienced in this matter. Ji-na returned home in the evening and found out that the president of the Women's Association had opened a massage room. Ji-na wanted to go there to relax and explore the situation of the villa area. At first, the president did not agree, but when Ji-na promised to pay double, this woman immediately changed attitude. The president led Ji-na to the room where the aunts were talking about the murder that had just happened. Someone mentioned Charlie. He was the one who benefited the most after she went crazy, because the crazy woman had a lot of money. Even the Rose Villa belonged to her. The president told Ji-na to take off her shirt and lie down, but she was shy and only exposed her shoulders. The president started acupressure to help Ji-na relax. After the massage, Ji-na returned to the room. She went to bed and was interrupted by the couple upstairs arguing. A person in black appeared in the hallway, sprayed smoke into the camera in front of Ji-na's room. Then he broke into the house, searched for something, unfortunately made a noise, causing Gina to suddenly wake up. The man in black immediately put a knife to Gina's neck. It turned out that what he was looking for was the laptop. The black-shirted man forced Gina to give it to him, but she threw it out the window. The black-shirted man angrily beat Gina. He also wanted to strangle her to death. Gina fell into a coma, dragged into the bathroom by the man in black. When she woke up, she discovered her hands and feet were tied tightly. The water in the tub was being flushed vigorously. Gina tried to struggle and call for help. The guy in black was no longer here. He went down to the first floor to pick up the laptop, but was disappointed. What the guy in black wanted to find was Ji-hun's laptop. On the other hand, Park Min-soo went to the female police officer. Ah was demoted from the team. She is now a traffic police officer. The female police officer blew the gong at the thug. The female police officer used a gun to control the thug without fear and invite her to bed. Park Min-soo appeared to teach this guy a lesson. The surrounding juniors saw this and rushed forward. Also, he pressed their head against the car. Park Min-soo's attitude was extremely angry. The female police officer did not know what happened to him. It turned out he did not want his career was insulted. Park Min-soo instructed the thug to blow alcohol concentration, and now he can have his driver's license revoked and be arrested at the police station for resisting law enforcement. Suddenly, Park Min-soo received a call for help from Gina. Hastily left the scene. Gina cut her own rope and fled the room. The man in black turned around and couldn't see her anymore. He wanted to find Gina. Luckily, Park Min-soo found her first. He put on his coat and gave her in the car. She didn't want to go to the hospital because she was afraid that her father and younger brother would worry. Park Min-soo had to take Gina to his house. From now on, Gina would stay here so that Park Min-soo could keep her safe. As soon as entered the house, she immediately wanted to take a shower. Park Min-soo didn't know how to behave, so he ran away to the supermarket to buy things. Because he didn't know what Gina needed, he took all the women's clothes. Seeing Park Min-soo bring a bunch of things home, Gina was extremely emotional. Since she was a child, no one has ever cared for her like that, including her boyfriend or family. Park Min-soo feels that this is what women deserve. Later, Park Min-soo wants to go to Gina's house to investigate. She gave him the password. Then at home waiting, Gina slept until morning. Still didn't see Park Min-soo return. It turned out he didn't accidentally wake Gina, but was busy in the garden taking care of the plants. Gina also wanted to help. Park Min-soo bringing a tree into the house, instructing Gina how to grow a tree in water. Gina wishes to be like a tree. Just by changing the living environment, she can have a new life. Park Min-soo encourages Gina. Human, it's also possible. Find a new place to live and start everything again. Gina is still pessimistic. People cannot be like trees. Broken trees can be cut and grow new branches, but bad reputation will follow people for life. Park Min-soo had to change the subject. Where can we put the tree? This corner has a lot of light. Gina helped Park Min-soo put the tree on the table. Suddenly, Park Min-soo received a phone call. He asked the policewoman to analyze Ji-hyun's computer. Now there is a result. The female police officer discovered one person paying special attention to Ji-hyun. That was the president of the Women's Association. She went to Ji-hyun's room many times, but she didn't open the door. It seemed Ji-hyun had some report related to the president's secret. She warned Ji-hyun, if she intentionally sent it, the report could not reach above. Moreover, Ji-hyun brought trouble on herself. But Ji-hyun still firmly maintained her stance, sent the president back, returned to reality, and Park Min-soo brought Gina back home. Didn't expect her boyfriend to come here. Gina had nothing to say to him, but her boyfriend still tried to hold on. The two of them went to the restaurant to talk. Gina wanted to save her boyfriend's dignity and asked him to let her go, but the boyfriend criticized Gina. Just went out with another guy. Gina didn't hesitate to expose him, slept with another girl while she was away. Her boyfriend still tried to deny it. Gina left angrily. On the other side, Park Min-soo returned to the station and reported last night's break-in to Captain John because he was investigating Ji-hyun's kidnapping. Maybe the guy in black broke in last night, related to the kidnapper. Team leader Jang didn't differentiate between black and white, immediately scolded Park Min-soo, told him not to interfere in Team 1's case. Kept saying it, and still didn't understand. Park Min-soo still endured, asked Captain Jang to send someone to Gina's house to investigate. He immediately asked his subordinates to leave. Park Min-soo then returned to his desk. The female police officer sent a photo and Ji-hyun's computer arrived. Accidentally letting his colleague see it, he realized that this was a picture of the Sky Tower of a religion called Church of God. With the instructions of his colleague, Park Min-soo went to meet a professor of religious studies. He introduced Park Min-soo to the Tower of Sky, where Israelis gathered to repent. In the 2000s in Korea, the Church of God introduced and spread the culture of hedonism, causing the number of believers to increase dramatically. Mass suicides of followers also continuously occur. They worship a leader. The leader represents God, but it is not Jesus. but the demon lord Raphael. No one dares to oppose it. The leader of the cult that day was John Tae-man. There was one female retainer close. Later, because of extremist actions, the Church of God was purged by the state. All of his followers were arrested. Only his female retainer escaped. She was even more cunning and difficult to deal with than the cult leader. Real name is Han Hung-do. Park Min-soo felt that this person was very familiar, but still couldn't remember. At this time, Captain Jang led the person to Ji-na's house to investigate. The scene in the bathroom was unexpectedly cleaned up. People felt confused. Suddenly heard a noise from the balcony. Ji-na opened the window to take a look, discovered her sister hanging there. Ji-na panicked and asked the police to save her sister. Ji-hyun suddenly said one sentence, "It's all your fault." Ji-na didn't have time to think, asked the police to call an ambulance for her sister. Later, Ji-hyun was taken away by ambulance. People gathered around to watch the excitement. Captain John led his subordinates home first, to avoid being interviewed by journalists. However, on the way back, they heard the news about Ji-hyun died, before being taken to the hospital. The news made the youngest brother restless. Ji-na hid in the house in pain. She saw with her own eyes her older sister die right in front of her. But there was nothing she could do, but also heard from her sister's mouth that it was because of she that her sister had to die. Ji-na was even more miserable. Park Min-soo was outside waiting for Ji-na, but she refused to open the door. Park Min-soo had to leave. He would find Ji-na a satisfactory answer. The next day, someone would come to the police station confessed. Charlie claimed to be the kidnapper. He met Park Min-soo outside the door. "Hello, acquaintance." Park Min-soo wanted to know what Charlie said, so he went to the female police officer and asked her to come to the first team to investigate. Today's meal is considered remuneration. The female police officer still hadn't agreed, so Park Min-soo quickly left, giving her no time to refuse. In the evening, Park Min-soo brought food to Ji-na's place. She still couldn't accept the truth. Why did it because of me? Ji-na kept thinking about what her sister said before leaving. Park Min-soo still encouraged, there must be another problem inside. He will help Ji-na find the truth. Another side. The female police officer approached the police officer wearing glasses, probed about the progress of the investigation of the case. The bespectacled police officer did not hide anything, told the whole story. Today Charlie went to the station to confess, because he posted a sensitive video of Ji-hyun online, and it was all deepfake video. Charlie was arrested for insulting another person's honor, and in the Crazy Lady case, after being sent by Captain Jang to look for the lock, the bespectacled police brought the keys and planted them all over the Rose Villa, but none of the sockets match. He had to give up, put the key in the evidence room, considering it as useless evidence. Taking the opportunity of the female police officer wanting to ask for the key, she would help the police officer wearing glasses find the lock, as long as he said good things to the captain. Let the female police officer be reinstated. The police officer wearing glasses didn't think much, gave the key to her. At this time, Ji-na went to the hospital to see her father. Looking at her expression, the father knew something happened to Ji-hyun. Ji-na didn't want to hide it from her father. Knowing his daughter had gone first, the father was extremely sad. The next day the police got the forensic results. Ji-hyun was actually murdered, then disguised as a suicide. Someone grabbed Ji-hyun's neck, then hung her up. In addition, there was a wound on the back of the head. But this was not the real cause of death. The police wearing glasses speculated that, in order to hang an adult woman, the killer certainly had support. Captain John, hearing that, realized this case is not simple. The police sent to investigate. Ji-na also had news. He inquired from Ji-na's colleagues, and found out that the bra Ji-na gave Ji-hyun was not custom-made as she said, but was a gift to a customer hotel's VIP room, which means she intentionally slandered the murderer. Moreover, it was not the first time Ji-na witnessed a disappearance. 3 years ago, her boyfriend also disappeared, and was found dead drowning in the lake. Captain Jang felt that Ji-na was the one with the problem, so he asked his subordinates, check Ji-na's alibi. On the day Ji-hyun was kidnapped, at this time, Ji-hyun's funeral was taking place. There were many people who came to express their condolences. After all, she used to be the head of a research institute. A colleague at the hotel also came to express condolences to Ji-na, reminding the police officer, who had come to the hotel to investigate and knew what Ji-na had lied about, it was best for her not to return to the hotel to work. If she don't want to be made difficult by management, Ji-na thanked her for the sincere advice. On the other hand, the female police officer informed Park Min-soo that what she found out was that the police officer wore glasses and knew that Charlie was the one who posted Ji-hyun's video online, but still got free. Park Min-soo went to the supermarket, angrily punched Charlie, even though he knew this action would cause him to lose his job. But Park Min-soo could not stand the scum Charlie, and when finished, Park Min-soo came over to find Ji-na. The two confide together. Seeing that Ji-na was truly saddened by her sister's death, Park Min-soo believes she is a good sister. Ji-na responded to Park Min-soo's trust by leaning on his shoulder. She also trusted Park Min-soo. All recent actions have proven that. In the middle of the night, Charlie was about to close the supermarket, called his friend in anger, because he was punched by Park Min-soo today, and the store is in a slump again. Charlie wishes had someone deal with Park Min-soo. As soon as he finished speaking, a shadow appeared in the supermarket. He came to deal with Charlie first. The black-shirted guy didn't say much. He directly used a knife to kill Charlie. The next day the police were at the scene. Although there was a lot of blood, they did not discover the body or find the murder weapon. Park Min-soo went inside to check to see if the murderer could have taken the victim anywhere. At this time Ji-hun was taken to be cremated. Everyone was crying in pain. Only Ji-na did not shed a single tear. Later the father questioned Ji-na. Why did she die? But the child did not cry. Ji-na still coldly did not respond, making the father extremely angry. After returning home, Ji-na didn't say goodbye and left the Rose Villa directly. The youngest brother wanted to hold on but couldn't. Suddenly Ji-na received a call from Captain Jang, wanting her to come to the police station cooperation investigation. Ji-na also volunteered to do so. In the interrogation room, Captain Jang got straight to the point. Ignore all relatives. Ji-na became a suspect. In the case of investigating Ji-hyun, according to Captain Jang heard that Ji-na is good at lying and good at reply, answering his question without blinking an eye. Captain Jang took out the evidence, which was Ji-hun's bra. This was not the only set as she said. He asked the reason. Ji-na wanted to frame the murderer. At that time she was urgently looking for her sister, so she wanted to quickly identify the suspect. Captain Jang asked about alibi. On the day of the kidnapping, as usual, Ji-na went to work, then she went on a date and went shopping with her boyfriend. At about 9 p.m., she returned to her own room. According to Captain Jang's calculations, there was an empty space, enough time for Ji-na to take the train from Busan to Seoul, then kidnap her sister. Furthermore, Ji-na also used Ji-hun's identity to on the dating app. Captain Jang speculated that Ji-na wanted Ji-hun die to take her sister's place. Ji-na immediately objected. Clearly in the video, the kidnapper carried Ji-hun away. Ji-na couldn't do it with her strength. Captain Jang hadn't even mentioned it. He had already discovered the kidnapper also has accomplices. Ji-na must continue to listen to Captain Jang's analysis. First, the perpetrator will return to check and set up the scene. After kidnapping Ji-hyun, so Ji-na took leave at the hotel to go home to prepare everything, so she was the first to discover the scene. The second had to find a substitute. The subject Ji-na used was a mentally ill murderer, taking advantage of his hobby of killing cats. Ji-na left blood of cat in the house, turned the murderer into a suspect. Thirdly, to destroy the evidence, Ji-na provoked her father, letting him handle the murderer on her behalf. Finally, Ji-na had to turn herself into a victim so that no one could suspect her by asking his accomplices to attack in the room. If the black-shirted guy really took action, it was unlikely that Ji-na would still be alive. Captain Jang had doubts. How could the murderer, entering and leaving the room easily, it could only be family members. Everything Ji-na arranged truly became a perfect play. Captain Jang also mentioned the death of Ji-na's boyfriend of 3 years before. Did she also set it up like that? According to his investigation, the boyfriend is a former swimmer. Why is it said that drowning is drowning? Ji-na's face suddenly became gloomy. The gaze was again extremely sharp. Captain Jang will definitely find out the truth. Today ends here. Anyway, Ji-na as a witness, but soon Captain Jang will invite her as a suspect. Ji-na left the police station. Journalists surrounded her waiting for news, but Ji-na looked lifeless. Park Min-soo immediately ran to help her. Now only he trusted Ji-na. In the evening, Captain Jang received another forensic report on Ji-hoon's body, also discovered the chemical composition. Fertilizer NPK-12 is a high-quality fertilizer used for plants. In the nail, there are some Drosera rotundifolia seeds. Its scientific name is K-pinsite, but Ji-hyun does not grow that plant in her house. If the origin is known of these things, will definitely be an important clue. Suddenly remembered the bespectacled policeman who often chats with Ji-na when she used Ji-hyun's account on the dating app, also named K-pinsite. Captain Jang suspects that this may be Ji-na's accomplice. He asked the police officer to wear glasses, collect all the content of the chat, then find out who K-pinsite was. In the morning, the female police officer took the key and walked around the apartment, but still could not find the lock. If it was replaced, the female police officer decided to go to the landfill. The owner of the landfill showed where the residents of the Rose Villa left their old things. The female police officer searched from morning to night, praying to God and all. Finally got the answer. She found a door handle and fit the key. Immediately took it back to the evidence room and asked to identify the fingerprints on the doorknob. Later, the female police officer received a phone call from the captain and immediately ran to the barbecue restaurant to gather. It turned out that the captain of the second team was also committing to investigate the case and found the same clues as Team 1. Maybe the crime was related to trees. Park Min-soo happened to be a person who understands plants. He sat endlessly talking about different types of plants, making the captain feel suspicious. Park Min-soo and Ji-na are accomplices because these two people are also quite close. After returning from drinking, Park Min-soo went to the Rose Villa. Then remembered that Ji-na was gone. He called but Ji-na didn't answer the phone, so he had to leave a voice message, accidentally discovered by her boyfriend Ji-na. He immediately followed Park Min-soo, went down the trail leading to buildings 118 and 119, and was never seen again. In the morning, Captain Jang received a notification, found Kapensit, whose real name is Park Hong-chun, born in 1965, used a fake identity to text Ji-na. This person's address was also fake. Park Hong-chun disappeared about 10 years ago, now suddenly back. Captain Jang doesn't believe that there is such a miracle in the world, guessing that someone borrowed Park Hong-chun's identity, hid in the Rose Villa, and then caused shocking things. He asked the police to wear glasses, to investigate whether someone named Park Hong-chun was living in the villa. At this time, Ji-na received a call from her youngest brother. Her boyfriend came by the house last night. Ji-na went to the pharmacy to remind him not to bother, but her boyfriend didn't go to work today, so Ji-na had to send him a text message. Unexpectedly, Park Min-soo was holding Ji-na's boyfriend's phone. Received it message, he immediately hung up. This was a room full of green trees, but inside there was a voice begging for life. Park Min-soo is a perverted lover. He believes that what Ji-na has to endure is due to the standards set by her sister. Ji-hyun always wants Ji-na to become perfect like her. There was a time when the two sisters did not get along. Park Min-soo kidnapped Ji-hyun and locked her in a room full of plants. Because of that, Ji-na had to move back to the Rose Villa. Park Min-soo rented a room in the building opposite, with Ji-na's room, to observe her activities every day. Last night, when Park Min-soo returned to the room, Ji-na's boyfriend followed. Knowing that Park Min-soo was on the 11th floor, the boyfriend also went up to check. Unfortunately, he was dragged into the room, then detained here. On the other side, the female police officer came to the evidence room, asked about the results of the fingerprint assessment. On the door handle picked up at the landfill, unexpectedly has Park Min-soo's fingerprints. The female police officer encouraged herself. There must have been a mistake somewhere. Park Min-soo couldn't be a criminal. She decided to look for the captain of Team 2, but today the captain's face was also very strange, as if he knew something. Until the female police officer wanted to report. During the investigation of Ji-hyun's case, the captain immediately kicked out other subordinates. He advised the female police officer not to get involved in the case, just let the first team take care of it themselves. The captain did not want to personally arrest his subordinates. Now he could only hope Park Min-soo is not the murderer. But if the worst happens, the female police officer come and advise Park Min-soo to confess. She has always insisted that was not, wanting to find Park Min-soo to ask clearly. The team captain Jang also received news. As he predicted, he found a person named Park Hong-chun living in the Rose Villa. That person rented the house about 5 years ago, room 1104, building 1 and 18. Captain John rejoiced, immediately sent a team on the road. At this time, Ji-na's boyfriend is convincing Park Min-soo to give him a way to live. The boyfriend criticizes Ji-na, not worthy of Park Min-soo's protection. Ji-na is a cunning person, only knows how to show off. Her face was pitiful and fake, her mouth full of lies. But how many people are blind when it comes to love, and willing to listen to others? Park Min-soo questioned. If the boyfriend didn't come to Ji-na to take advantage of her, he wouldn't sit here. Boyfriend keeps insulting Ji-na. Made Park Min-soo angry, intending to kill him. Suddenly there was the sound of a police car outside. Park Min-soo knew he had been discovered, immediately tried to escape. The police burst into the house. Captain Jang divided people into a blockade. A group went to the emergency exit, accidentally encountered Park Min-soo wearing a mask like the guy in black. He quickly dealt with the police and fled. Captain Jang went to room 1104, found Ji-na's boyfriend here, immediately had his subordinates untie this guy. Ji-na's boyfriend reminded the police that the perpetrator who beat him had just escaped. Captain Jang contacted someone else, but the team sent to the emergency exit did not respond. When he arrived, everyone was lying on the ground. Someone else took Ji-na's boyfriend to the hospital, and Captain Jang returned to the room to search, discovering binoculars used to monitor room 809, including a wiretap. Captain Jang received a notice from his subordinates. We lost track of him. Captain Jang requested a quick search, and at the same time called a team to Ji-na's house to investigate. Indeed, they found a wiretap installed in the room. Later the police returned to the station and took the testimony of Ji-na's boyfriend. He confirmed that the murderer was a police officer accompanying Ji-na. He confirmed through Park Min-soo's photo. Captain Jang was extremely surprised. Suddenly a subordinate ran in and announced that the female police officer was asking for backup. The location is Park Min-soo's house. Captain Jang asked to leave immediately. On the other side, the female police officer pointed her gun at Park Min-soo, advising him to turn in. Park Min-soo asked the female police officer for some time to meet an important person one last time. The female police officer was extremely miserable. The captain also knew Park Min-soo's story, wanting to give him a chance to correct his mistakes. But Park Min-soo only cared about one woman. Forgetting that there were teammates, female police officers put down the guns and agreed to let Park Min-soo go. He apologized to the captain, then fled the house. The police discovered Park Min-soo, immediately besieged together. Park Min-soo attacked them and then ran away. The police quickly chased. After a while of struggling, they still couldn't catch Park Min-soo. He ran into the street. Unfortunately, being hit by the captain's Jang car, Park Min-soo was surrounded. Immediately grabbed the policeman wearing glasses as a hostage. He ruthlessly opened fire and shot his teammates, then threw the policeman wearing glasses back to everyone. Park Min-soo fled into the forest. Captain Jang was angry and sent someone to chase him. After escaping from the police, Park Min-soo went to the fat man and asked him to prepare a phone. Unable to track positioning, the fat man did not understand what is Park Min-soo facing, but still agreed to do it. Park Min-soo also stole the car the fat guy had just bought. But on the fat guy's car, there was a tracking device installed. Here is his plan. With the president of the women's union, she wants to take advantage of Park Min-soo and Ji-na to do something scary. Ji-na was deep in thought and suddenly received a call from a female police officer wanting to ask her to persuade Park Min-soo to turn in because maybe now he only listens to Ji-na. She immediately took the train to Seoul. The female police officer led Ji-na to room 1104. Ji-na wondered, did Park Min-soo kill Ji-hyun? The female police officer was not sure. Ji-na wanted to be alone. The female police officer had to leave first. Then, Ji-na went around to observe the room, arriving at the place where Park Min-soo watched her every day. He also took pictures of Ji-na's beautiful moments, then hung the photos all over the house. Ji-na was extremely sad. Why did she only find out now? After that, Ji-na went to the hospital to visit her father, telling him the truth. The father and youngest brother were extremely surprised, not believing that Park Min-soo was such a person. Only then did Ji-na ask the question, so did dad ever suspect that I were the one who killed my sister? He couldn't answer. It was an easy answer for Ji-na. She sadly went out to think. Suddenly Park Min-soo appeared, drugged her, and took Ji-na away. The next day, Ji-na woke up in a lonely house, Park Min-soo's country house. As soon as she saw him, Ji-na stepped back in fear. She asked what was going on. Park Min-soo advised Ji-na to calm down, sit down. He will tell the story. When Park Min-soo was a child, he lived with his father and mother, but his father was a heavy gambler, often dragged his mother to beat, and even scolded Park Min-soo for being a useless person. One day he couldn't bear it anymore. He killed his father. From now on he only has his mother. The mother wanted to protect her son, so she buried his father's body in the back garden, then planted it on a tree. Gradually Park Min-soo grew up. The tree also grew strong. The mother wanted Park Min-soo to forget the past, and became a police officer. Later she unfortunately passed away, and Park Min-soo was left alone. While he was a trainee police officer, he accidentally met Ji-na, and went to the station to complain. Park Min-soo loved at first sight, so he constantly followed Ji-na. Park Min-soo discovered that Ji-na was a person with many secrets, stimulating his curiosity. Park Min-soo immediately pretended to be Park Hoong-chun, rented room 1104, opposite Ji-na's building, to conveniently observe her, and was also Kepensit, befriending Ji-na on social networks. 3 years before knowing Ji-na had a boyfriend, Park Min-soo silently dealt with him, pretending to be a drowning incident. He wanted Ji-na only for himself. On the day Ji-na quarreled with her sister, then left to live in Busan. Park Min-soo was extremely desperate, combined with anger at Ji-hyun. For a year he built a revenge plan, and at the same time brought Ji-na back to room 809. Park Min-soo confessed to kidnapping Ji-hyun, and imprisoned her in the house. He took advantage of the murderer, becoming his substitute, because he was a mental patient with short-term memory, just as he planned. After Ji-hyun was kidnapped, Ji-na is back. Park Min-soo tells Ji-na his actions are all love for Ji-na, but she thinks that Park Min-soo is no different from a psychopath. He does not deny it, as long as is what Ji-na said, everything is true. When Ji-na wanted to see her sister again, Park Min-soo also decided to bring Ji-hyun back, but he discovered that she had disappeared. Someone else took Ji-hyun away and murdered her. It was the man in black who appeared in Ji-na's house. He was not Park Min-soo, because he would not hurt Ji-na. As long as Ji-na brought this matter told the police, Park Min-soo knew for sure the police would quickly find the man in black. Captain Jang was a capable person, then Park Min-soo would be exonerated. Ji-na would also find the real culprit, the murder of her sister. Ji-na had mixed emotions in her heart. She hated Park Min-soo, but could not take revenge on him. Furthermore, Park Min-soo's recent words made Ji-na extremely confused, because there were still people targeting her family. On the other hand, Captain Jang was extremely angry, because Park Min-soo had not been found yet. He asked the captain of Team 2, did he know where his subordinates were? The captain of Team 2 didn't care. This wasn't my case. Both sides started to get tense. Luckily the subordinates stopped him, and then they both stopped. They calmly sat down and talked. The captain of Team 2 knew that Park Min-soo was really the kidnapper, but he didn't believe he had the guts to kill someone. Captain Jang also thought the same, but if he wanted to clarify everything, he had to find Park Min-soo first. Suddenly the captain of Team 2 remembered Park Min-soo also had one house in the countryside. Captain Jang immediately sent people on their way, but they were still one step late. After seeing Gina back, Park Min-soo ended his life to pay for his crime. This female police officer is sitting bored at Gina's house. She wants to find evidence to prove that Park Min-soo is innocent, but so far, she hasn't found it. After the female police officer finished eating the cake, she wanted to go to the bathroom to wash her hands, but accidentally discovered bloodstains on the water tank. It turned out to be dropped by the masked man. The female police officer immediately took a sample and brought it to the then take it to the forensic department to confirm the identity of the murderer. Unexpectedly, it was not Park Min-soo, but a stranger. At the same time the president of the Women's Union was coming to meet the stranger, she introduced herself as Han Hung-do, close subordinates of the previous leader of the Church of God. The film ends here, opening up the topic for the next part. The return of the Church of God, along with the dark plots of the new leader, will be released in 2025. Love makes people blind, ready to do everything for the person they love. But if they don't realize, is your sacrifice worth it? Give love wisely. Also know how to love yourself. Thank you for watching the whole movie. See you in the next videos.